to the press, coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN television. And now we've been joined by Yishawu. She is the Speaker of Nigerian Youth Parliament, and together we shall be taking a look at some of the headlines we read out to you earlier. And this is also a soft reminder that our phone lines are now open for you to call and join the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. All right, okay, and also this is a reminder that our phone lines will be open for you to join the conversation on the press today. We've had, before you joined us on the program, we've had a lot of headlines across all of our national dailies, but one headline that seemed to be consistent throughout this week was the issue of the signing of the student loan, and people or groups also calling for palliative to suit the or to cushion the effect of this forced subsidy removal. So I want to ask you two questions. The first one is, what are your thoughts on the forced subsidy removal? And secondly, so we are seeing this headline from The Nation, and it says the NEC yesterday had a meeting, and it considered two forms of palliative for workers and vulnerable people to cushion the effect of petrol subsidy removal. And one of that is living cost allowance of 702 billion naira and petroleum allowance ranging from 3.5 billion naira to 45 billion naira per month. So we're removing subsidy because we cannot afford that, and now we are seeing these figures as palliative to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, so thank you very much. I think as a matter of fact, if we're going to be very, very truthful to ourselves, subsidy it should be removed, and that is the wrong call. That's the right call based on past experience and whatever value that this is cost, because the subsidy removal, let's say community or society, has long been stealing from Nigerians. Let me put that way. I think the recent last 2 year presentation at the National Assembly with a lot of drama, this just shows that there's a lot of corruption in that now, so therefore it has to go. And then of course there's a lot of debate as to how do we cushion the effects of it, and I think that for me, I think the government needs to have a very systematic and more consistent way to cushion that effect. Bear in mind that subsidy removal is not a COVID-19 thing that we want to now adapt traders money mechanisms or whatsoever. It's gonna be on for a while until the necessary market factors can adjust appropriately. So for me, what I would suggest is, it depends on how government wants to go about targeting the most vulnerable people, or people that they want to ensure to cushion this effect. So to start with, I'm very focused on young people, and so to start with young people that of course are in a system, or people that are in the system is earning salary, I think that what is expected is that the corresponding improvement in salary should be what should be adopted in the health sector, rather than trying to set up a specific amount for that amount, because in the working sector, formal sector in that way, sorry. And then government can then, through consultation and investment with different sectors, fashion out a more consistent way to attention the how will I call it, the informal sector. So still like maybe for now removing some taxes that government would would ask from certain people, find other ways in which the impact, or reduce the impact of what they are trying to do. The idea of giving petrol allowance and the rest, for someone that has 2-3 cars, you understand what I'm saying, you should be able, if you have 2-3 cars, then you should be able to afford to get those cars moving on the road if need be, as the case might be. So for me, it is not a one direct way. First of all, for the formal sector, to which there is a process, I think a salary adjustment as appropriate is what should be devised, because we're not going to bring back subsidy. We are removing it consistent, and that is the reality. So we need to adjust. And then for the informal sector, I think it is best for government to sit down with necessary factors to understand what is most peculiar to them. For young people, it might be a different thing. For market women, it might be a different thing. And so you don't want to adopt a process that would exclude one thing from from the other, as the case might be. So that is that for me. And like I said, all things being equal, if this policy and some of these actions made by this current president is effectively implemented, we'll see that things would eventually take balance and then adjust as well. Okay, now while you are making your submission, you talked about the government adopting a systematic approach in trying to cushioning the effects of this subsidy removal. But then if we take a look at it more critically, the government is trying to remove
the monies they are paying in subsidizing this product. And the money we are talking about in terms of trying to put it on salary increase and also other palliatives, we are looking at around 706 billion naira, which is going close to the amount the government was paying on subsidy monthly before now. Now, for how long will these palliatives continue, and where will these monies be sourced from?
Okay, thank you very much. I think those are part of the questions that the government themselves need to answer as well. And I do not necessarily agree with the numbers that have been stated. You know, this is what the government is presenting as a news for today, and I do not necessarily agree with the total amount that has been estimated. But what I meant by, you know, a systematic approach is that, look, the role of government for me is always to provide an enabling environment, not necessarily be at the forefront of certain things. So take, for example, in the formal sector, if what is required is to give some tax reliefs to companies that would necessarily pay certain tax, you understand what I'm saying, maybe income tax, whatever the tax might be, relieve those taxes so that whatever ought to have gone to the government directly from taxes can be pushed into increasing, you know, the salaries of the. So in that way, you are not necessarily having to pull funds from certain ways to pay or to effect that changes as well. And then in the civil service sector, which is what directly government paying itself, and then we can discuss what are the other means to cushion you know, that particular effect as well. Like I said, and like I mentioned, this amount, what we are hoping to get from this particular government is a more transparent and intentional government process. You understand? So like you have mentioned, does it really make sense that we are putting back the same amount that we said would benefit or will have gained by removing the subsidy back into trying that process as well? And so in their engagement for the policy advisors and the implementing sectors, what they need to be able to give us, you know, a breakdown of what that process is. If this amount is a short period, maybe a 1 year kind of intervention, where we believe that in due time the economy itself will balance, such that we have more the GDP of Nigeria, so, you know, those factors that affect the economy would naturally lead to more job opportunities, more international investment, increase in production, increasing our forex exchange, all those factors that would affect the economy. So naturally, you will see a gradual ability of government and employers of labours to naturally increase salary, to improve the standard of living, because the economic world is booming. You understand what I'm trying to say? So maybe a situation where more people now have licenses to either import petroleum at a cheaper rate. There's a competitive market. Are we diverting to clean energy, gas energy? Are we making use? We have more refineries so that we can increase our forex. So these are these things that are attached to this subsidy removal that we're expecting. So if this amount, this 75 billion or this 700 something billion is for a short period of time, I think that in the process of accountability and transparency, it should be for a time period to cushion the effect, because we don't want a collapsing economy. We don't want people that will not go to work, not go to school, or not, you know, a production will reduce, and some of those effects. And then we estimate or we project that by this time next year, the economy will have balanced. We have a booming economy, we have a productive economy, we are efficient in the oil and gas, in the petroleum sector, and then, you know, we were able to project significantly and more efficiently, you know, the benefits of, you know, taking this drastic action. Yes. All
right. In your speech, you also made mention of the government engaging stakeholders in different groups. You made mention of market women, youth, students, to understand how this affects them. So I'm going to talk about youth, because you're a speaker for the Nigerian Youth Parliament. So my question is going to be, taking into consideration the fact that Nigeria has the more youth population in Nigeria, and which out of that youth, most of them are unemployed. So how can the government now cushion the effect of this forced subsidy for someone who is unemployed and also who is part of the larger community when you talk about the Nigerian population?
Thank you very much. So I think that this is where, like you've mentioned, the category of young people, we have different categories of young people. employed, underemployed, not employed, out of school, whatever it is that we might categorize it. And I think that one of the things that government can do is that, for example, there is in every state, in every local government federation, we have the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and we have Ministry of Youth particularly. So other states might adopt another addition to it. And I think that one of the ways in which government can directly engage young people, you understand, is to tap into the existing institutions that connect with young people, whether with youth platforms such as the Nigerian Youth Parliament. Recently, we are still collecting data about the effect of the first subsidy waiver on young people particularly, and persons living with disability as well. And so what the government can do is to, of course, engage this platform. I've always said it. You cannot make provisions for people without telling them exactly what is most important or relevant to them in the course of this fuel removal subsidy. Some of us might assume that is a transportation cost that is really the issue. It might not necessarily be the issue if maybe as a young person you are in school or your place of work is not that far, but then, you know, cost of getting some other items that have been indirectly affected by the fuel removal might be a very, very big issue, as the case might be. So tapping into engaging the platform first is very important to get feedback. Tapping into existing structures that already have contact with them. So one of the ways, of course, for young people who are out of school or who are underemployed, one of the ways I suggest is that, of course, registration on a particular system, and then, of course, these people have bank account. We have a way of, you know, crediting them and providing that, you know, that relief. And like I said, providing that relief. But the end goal for young people is employment.
Okay.
You understand? And so let me finish that. The end goal, or what will really, really work, is employment for young people. So for young people who are underemployed or not employed, you understand, then the government needs to open a portal for employment for young people. For those who are already employed, of course, I've talked about how the formal sectors can, you know, buffer for that, and so that is my suggestions in that respect.
All right, let's take a call before we continue our conversation. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, beautiful morning to you, Sandra.
Good morning, SMD. How are you doing today?
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much, Azeezat. Dr. Azeezat, good morning. You are on to SMD from Lagos.
Good morning, SMD. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. And you?
Very well, thank you.
Interesting. Mr. Francis, 2 days. I hope you're doing pretty well.
I'm doing very well. Thank you. And you?
Thank you very much. Let me quickly appreciate KAFTAN TV for giving us this ample opportunity. And then the involvement of the youth parliament leader, I can see there is a new era, and this is quite impressive. I really appreciate that. Dr. Azeezat, keep it up. And let me look at it this way. The issue of the National Economic Council. Sandra, Francis, you will agree with me, I always talk about this National Economic Council. This is something that has been established in our 1999 Constitution. I remember, for those who are teaching that Shatima is not an economist, did the law give him that right to be the chairman of that committee? Because each and every vice president is the chairman of that National Economic Council committee, and then all the governors of the 36 states are the members of that committee, including the CBN governors. So that is the law for you. Whether Shatima is an economist or is not, is the power give him that right, and it's left for him to do the needful. Maybe that is why Mr. President was asking them they should do the needful. There is no room for excuse of failure, and I quite appreciate that. If you look at the appointment of Mr. President, starting from the special advisors, you will know that, yeah, probably maybe we are at the right track. Believe me, among that special advisors, there are some people are expecting them to be ministers. But look at it today. So it means there should be a system whereby if you are a governor for 2 times, you know, maybe you think twice and go back to your local government and be a chairman. It's a development to me. Honestly speaking, if people were expecting to be ministers and we will see them as a special advisors, to show you that what Mr. President made mention that he will work on national competence is on ground, and I really appreciate that. I'm not a carrying member of any political party, but the issue is we are talking about our nation and the nation development. Therefore, the needful has to be done. And lastly, I want Mr. President to look at this local government autonomy of a team, like Dr. Azeezat was saying. Seriously, there is need for the government to look at this, our small scale industries. This is where money will be flowing. You will see people staying in their jurisdiction without coming out, going to the town to make money. They will not be coming to the town hustling if money is circulating within the local government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SMD. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Quite a lot that SMD has said there, and just because of our time, I quickly want to ask you. I would like to address you as Madam Speaker right now. As a Speaker of the Nigerian Youth Parliament, before now, various arms of the Nigerian youth organizations, we all know how proactive they have been, but then a lot of times their credibility has been called into question. I'm going to ask you two questions, and want to unbundle it in one breath. Their credibility has been called into question so many times. Some Nigerians have described them as political contractors, working for politicians, working in the interest of certain politicians. I'd like you to react to that. That's one. And recently, the signing of the student loan bill is no longer news to anyone in Nigeria. I guess a lot of Nigerians have described the move as, some described it as a trap, considering the recent Japa syndrome. I was on a Twitter space, and former distinguished Senator Yishawu, and he said the first generation, when they graduated from school, they had jobs waiting for them. The second generation graduated, and there was no job. The third generation will graduate, no job, with loans to pay. There's been so much confusion about the Nigerian student loan. You may want to shed some light on this.
Okay, to start with the reputation of young people and platforms in Nigeria, I think that a lot of work can still be done. And I think that is the environment that calls for certain behaviors and characters as well. And however, as a young person that is coming from the civic space, I have two platforms that I engage organizations before, becoming the Speaker of the Parliament as well. The Parliament itself is a government initiative under the National Assembly and the Ministry of Youth and Sport to engage young people and to train our young people in the act of policy and legislation, and also propose bills or policy that would, be of benefit to young people as well. So we are already a government parastatals. However, other young platform, I think that we cannot totally say something is good or something is bad, but we can allude to the importance of having an opportunity for young people to do what? To hear their voice. So I think that in that regard, young people are doing more good with their platforms, do you understand, in terms of community engagement, advocacy, implementation of, community growth and development than, any of those ones. And, like I said, in any of those regards as well, I think that at the same time, it is a two-way thing. You understand? You can't clap with one hand. You understand? So there is a pressure. You understand what I'm saying, to make use of some of these platforms for political reasons. However, I think as everybody has the freedom of association and expression, so if a platform who is politically inclined and they feel that they have the opportunity to advocate for a certain candidate, please go ahead and do it. The Parliament does not do that as a body. We're a government parastatals, and what we do is a government program, and what we do is welcome any government and tell them these are what young people are interested in, and this is what is important to young people as well. So for us, we'll be fully working with the present government in achieving youth development and growth. So that being said, so for the Student Loan Act, yes, of course, it's going to be a big deal. I think Nigerians are always, skeptical about, loans and all that. However, for what we need, it is a good step in the right direction. Even during the campaign, all the presidential candidates mentioned what? The student loan. And it is very, very important. In response to what the elder statesman stated on Twitter. See, look, in everything there's a process to start. If you look at countries that give free education, their population is small, they have a target in mind. Nigeria has a large population. I am on the course at LSE on public policy implementation. There are some policies that are put out for market efficiency, economic growth, while some are put out for justice and equity. This Student Loan Act is the next step. We've had some form of free or subsidized education at some point. It has not really made it easy for government to actually invest properly in education development, because some of this money are put into into this regards as well. And so it is important. Let me tell you the advantage of this. Look, in advanced countries, in the countries that we are easy to quote, you pay for education, but it does not come in a way whereby it chokes you while you are trying to access education. And then there are opportunities for you to immediately be able to pay for what? For your education. You understand what I'm saying? And so that is what this is the first good part of what of another what of the full journey. So if this student loan is implemented rightly, what happens is that while you are trying to access education, which should be a fundamental right to everybody, is that what you are what free of what of stress. You are free of what any other what diversion or distraction, as the case might be. And this way, in this student loan, we have cases of people dropping out of schools, not being able to write their final exams because they've not been able to pay their school fees. We have people staying away from very professional, necessary courses, futuristic courses such as AI, technology, medicine, law, and some of other courses that Nigerian is because of the school fees or any of the expenses. So this student loan will take care of those. So you have more young people whose parents earn less than 500 per annum, who earn less than 500 per annum, going into some of this field. Now the other part of it, which is the fear of most people, is that look, in this regards, part of the things that we've suggested to the president as we forwarded our letter is that we must be able to ensure that 60 to 70% of people who are able to attach to this program or access the loan are assured of what? Jobs. Of jobs. Okay. Now in the act it says that what you will start paying 2 years after NYSC. In those 2 years you might not have what gotten a job. And again, you are owing government. So if government, if they want this act to be very, very, very efficient and they don't want to run at a loss, government must be able to ensure that a large number of people who are on this particular scheme are gain employment within that period, and they are able to pay back. There's no even for long story. Once you are on the system, whether private or public sector, government automatically removes their money. So in that way, government is not at loss. They are increasing the labor market with competent, educated young people. You understand what I'm trying to say? And part of the thing that we suggested is that, look, every year the idea of job fair should be paramount in every university every year. Private sector especially, you understand, should come to those universities to start picking people that start offering employment, you understand me, to young people. That way you have secured the bag. And then this idea of jackpot syndrome, of course the idea is to stay in your mother's country. There's nothing about trying to trap people. The idea is to stay. You understand? You can go abroad, come back, learn, enjoy your life. But the idea is to live and to work and to impact your community as well. So this idea, like I said, for me as a medical doctor, I have colleagues who do not have let me put the word a specific job. So we go from shift to shift to accumulate some stuff. So if you are telling me that out of med school, out of NYC, I will automatically get a job. When I automatically get a job, I'm already in the system. Of course, then I graduate to whatever profession that I want. We have most of those professions available, in Nigeria as well. So those are those things that we need to look forward to. So as citizens, as stakeholders, we need to start saying this is good. Then the other half needs to also be better. You understand what I'm saying? So pushing for those things to be implemented. And just to add finally, because in the act there's a special committee that has already been set up with those who need to occupy it. So my suggestion is that this committee needs to set up an advisory board that will include young people. 40% young people, 40% consultant and stakeholders in public implementation and policy. Because in the implementation of this act, there's still a lot of things to go through as well. So that it allows for feedback mechanisms. It advises for advisory on the implementation policy and strategy, and it allows for accountability as well.
All right, thank you so much. I think with that we have to let you go because we have another guest coming on the program. It's been amazing talking to you, and we hope to have you some other time to continue our conversation.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. We'll go on a short break now, and we'll be back shortly. Don't go away.